The best of Money Matters. Right Business.
Welcome to The Right Business, where we dive deep into the stories of trailblazers who dare to disrupt the status quo, find the gap in the market to find the right business. Hello, I'm Hongbin Jeong. When we talk about digital transformation, most conversations focus on tools like AI, automation, upskilling. But rarely do we pause to ask, how are people feeling through all this change? For many mid-career professionals or civil servants stepping into digital learning environments, the pressure can feel overwhelming. There's fear of falling behind, uncertainty about what's next, and often burnout quietly brewing beneath the surface. That emotional weight is exactly what Johnson Ong is helping people unpack. He's the founder and chief happiness coach at Living Better, a Singapore-based company that weaves emotional well-being and resilient coaching directly into workforce training. Johnson works closely with adult learners, many of whom are stepping into tech for the first time, to rebuild their confidence and help them feel capable again. His work with training partners like at Ask Training is reshaping how we think about learning, not just as a skill-building process, but as a human one. So joining us today to share more is Johnson Ong, founder and chief happiness coach at Living Better. Hi, Johnson. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, good afternoon, Hongbin Jeong, and listener of the Right Business at Money FM 89.3.
Thank you for joining us. Well, Johnson, I just want to start off by asking, your title is Chief Happiness Coach. What does that mean?
Well, I think it's important that at Living Better, I need to lead in promoting and educating Singaporean on happiness. And I've chosen this Chief Happiness Coach as a way of how I would actually direct to educate Singaporean on happiness.
What do you define as happiness then?
Well, happiness is basically a state of emotion. It could also have a component that relate to life worth living. And happiness can be defined very subjectively by different individuals because of our different experiences that we may have, and also our background, our beliefs. So in general, we basically educate the participant on three areas of happiness, according to Dr. Martin Seligman, the author of Authentic Happiness. He mentioned that there are three levels. The first level is called pleasure, where happiness could be related to feeling good. For example, you go to a massage, and after the massage, you feel very good about that because the muscles you feel relieved. The second level is called engagement, where you have a deeper commitment to members of the family, for example, to your loved ones, or even to your work. The third level is called meaning, where you want to make a contribution to the society in general, and therefore that probably becomes part of your life purpose. So it depends on the level that we are experiencing happiness, whether it is pleasure, whether it's engagement, or whether it's meaning.
Right. Well, Johnson, before we dive into your work here, let's talk about what you're seeing in the classroom. I mean, when mid-career learners or public officers walk into a digital upskilling workshop, what kinds of emotional weight are they bringing with them?
For me, it's also a question I'm also very concerned about. It affects the quality of learning. So before I begin my class, I often ask the participants for their reasons for attending the workshop. Most of them responded that they want to learn how to be happy. Then the minority mentioned that they take the training as a way to stay from work. From their responses, I can assume that most of the participants are less happy at work or in life, with some just wanting to escape from the stressful work environment. Emotions are contagious, and people can easily get influenced by the emotion of the people in the environment, especially for officers working in the prison department, narcotic bureau, or the police force, who frequently have to deal with victims, offenders, and criminals. And the circumstances surrounding the events are very unpleasant.
Right.
Interestingly, Hongbin, a study by the Harvard Medical School found that close contact with people around us can affect our emotional state positively or negatively. The study found that on average, a person's happiness level rises by 9% for every happy friend or contact, and it decreases by 7% for every unhappy friend or contact. In other words, the emotional state of the victims, offenders, or criminals can affect these officers negatively. Therefore, self-care and wellness programs, intervention, and training are effective ways for these officers to recharge and renew themselves, as well as to take care of their personal well-being.
Well, often attention is placed on skills and certifications, but less on mindset and, of course, mental health. So, Johnson, why do you think this part of adult learning is so often overlooked?
In my opinion, skills and certification are said to be tangible. They are easily assessed, and verifiable through qualifications and licenses. Many would believe that these certifications and skills can be directly translated to increase job performance and productivity, thus making them a priority in most adult training investments. On the other hand, mindsets and mental health are often overlooked due to their less tangible nature and the stigma surrounding mental health issues, which often lead to a reluctance to discuss or address them openly. Many perceive mindset and mental health to be of personal matters, and they prefer not to raise them.
Well, let's talk about living better now as well, Johnson. What sparked you to build a business around emotional well-being and resilience, and why now? What gap did you see that others weren't addressing?
Well, if we were to look at the issue on well-being and happiness, statistically, there has been a tremendous impact on both productivity as well as wellness. Living Better was actually founded in the year 2012 with a vision to create a happier world and also in bringing happiness to all beings. 2012 is also the year that the United Nations declared 20th of March each year as the International Day of Happiness. The declaration aimed to make people around the world realize the importance of happiness within their life. A year before that, a talent management company called Lumiere ranked Singapore workers as the most unhappiest among the 14 countries surveyed. This marked a very significant departure from Singapore #1 state, but in the opposite direction. I saw this gap as an opportunity in the wellness market for Living Better to promote and educate Singapore workforce on workplace happiness and personal well-being if Singapore wants to remain competitive and innovative in the global marketplace. According to the Global Wellness Institute, the global wellness market in 2012 was valued at $494 billion, and today it has grown significantly to about $7 trillion. The global wellness market is projected to grow to nearly $9 trillion by 2028, with an annual growth of 12%. In Singapore, a recent study by National University of Singapore in collaboration with the Education Ministry and the Institute of Mental Health found that 1 in 3 young people in Singapore has mental health symptoms. Another study by Duke NUS Medical School and the Institute of Mental Health reported that anxiety and depression, which are related to mental health, cost Singapore around 16 billion Singapore dollars yearly. These studies show the urgency and importance of businesses needing to invest in wellness and mental health training, program, and intervention today. Businesses not paying enough attention to mental health, good life, are likely to fall behind in both productivity and attracting talents.
Okay, well, Johnson, you've worked across Asia before founding Living Better. How do cultural attitudes toward well-being shape the way your business operates here in Singapore?
Cultural values across Asia are generally very similar in terms of traditional philosophy, like the belief in Confucianism and religious beliefs. Some may even perceive that happiness is attributed to one luck, fate, or even karma. Asians tend to be more conservative as compared to their Western counterparts, and they are less inclined to discuss issues relating to well-being and mental health openly. Given these cultural values, Singapore may not be easily convinced that well-being like happiness can be taught or learned. Therefore, Living Better adopts the different philosophy based on the scientific evidence-based approach to educate and promote well-being and happiness, and to advance the notion that happiness can be learned just like any kind of skills.
Living Better isn't just a coaching service. It is an integrated part of digital skills training through partners like at Ask Training. How did that collaboration come about, and why is it so important to, embed emotional support within skills training itself?
Wow, that collaboration goes back to 2012. It happened by accident. I happened to encounter the managing director of ASK, Mr. Anson Kua, in 2013 when we were conducting separate training at the same premises. A few months later, we finally met up to discuss the collaboration. Now, ASK Training and Living Better share similar foresight on the needs for training in well-being and mental health. We rolled out our first collaborator course, the Happiness DNA, in 2014, and it went very, very well. Today, we are offering 3 courses through our collaboration. They are Happy Employees Work Better, Happier Career, Happier Life, and Building Personal Resilience and Well-being. Since then, we have hosted more than 65 training workshops on well-being and resilience. Collaboration is a critical strategy among small and medium enterprises like ASK Training and Living Better to tap into each other's expertise, resources, and market access, as well as strategic approach to sustain our business success in the longer term.
Happier
So that's
career.
basically how it came about.
Right. I mean, that's very interesting. Happier career, happier life. Well, Johnson, what's one misconception you often have to break down when people first come to your workshops, especially around burnout or motivation?
One of the common misconception about burnout is that people tend to perceive that it only affects those who spend long hours at work. A study on burnout by human capital management technology provider Rivian reviewed in its Pulse of Talent report that 92% of workers in Singapore are experiencing burnout, with 36% of them reporting high or extreme level. The study also found that the causes of their burnout were attributed to increased workload at 49%, pressure to meet deadline at 37%, and long working hours at 33%. So in reality, burnout can happen to any one of us, regardless of our work habit or perceived resilience. To prevent burnout, we first have to measure the people who are at risk of burnout in 4 dimensions. First is exhaustion, about the loss of physical and mental energy. Second is about mental distance. We measure the degrees of distancing oneself from work. Third is cognitive impairment, which is about the lack of attention and concentration and poor memory. And finally, the emotional impairment, which measures how one is overwhelmed by his or her intense emotion. By understanding these risks of burnout in these 4 dimensions, we are able to develop strategy to address them more effectively.
But with Singapore pushing so hard on digital transformation, what risks are we taking if we don't equally invest in emotional well-being and resilience, Johnson?
Yes, digital transformation is important. Individuals and companies, on the other hand, should not overlook investing in well-being and resilience. Studies show that poor mental health can significantly lower productivity and performance. It's estimated that globally, around 12 billion working days or 50 million years of work are lost every year to mental health issues. It costs the global economy around $1 trillion annually, and about 16 billion Singapore dollar a year. While skill and certification can be said to be important, however, neglecting mindset and mental health can have significant negative consequences for both employee and organization. Recognizing the interconnectedness of these factors and actively promoting a positive and supportive work environment is crucial for maximizing employee well-being and organization success.
So, Johnson, what would you say to someone listening in today who's feeling stuck or overwhelmed in their career but doesn't know where to begin?
Hongbin, this happened to me as well before I established living better. At that time, I felt that my career growth had stagnated and I was not maximizing my potential fully in the corporate environment. I wanted to do something bigger in contributing to humanity and at the same time doing the things that I love. I reflected on my life mission then and found that living better. Let me share with you the steps that I took to write out of my situation. First is take care of yourself well. Ensure that you have enough sleep, eat healthily, and engage in exercises to stay fit and healthy. This is the time that we need the most energy to get out of our situation. Second is to identify what exactly is making you feeling stuck or overwhelmed. Is it a specific task, a lack of growth opportunity, toxic work environment, or a personal deficiency, such as lack of necessary skills or knowledge in the particular area? Finally, act on those areas that are within your control, such as learning a new skill, acquiring a new certification, upgrading an existing qualification, or reviewing your own personal life goal and priority. For those areas that are beyond your control, speak to the right person or relevant party to seek their assistance and support. But don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for that step-by-step. Hopefully someone tuning in who's feeling overwhelmed or even burnt out will take your advice. Well, Johnson, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you. That was Johnson Ong, who's a founder and chief happiness coach at Living Better. This has been The Right Business with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.